The story begins when a man finds himself next to a lake in the middle of nowhere and wonders how he got there. And then he suddenly remembers that he was driving on his scooter when a vending machine ahead of him loose and it ends up smashing into him. He is surprised that he was able to survive that accident, but he soon finds out that he is unable to move, and suddenly he hears his voice welcoming costumers in order to use him. And then he realizes that he is reincarnated as a vending machine. We learn from him that he loves vending machines and is really happy that he got to be one after death. He admires his products and the way they are priced, also the way he is designed. But soon he realizes that being reincarnated as a vending machine might be a problem, and he wonders if this was thanks to God that he was able to be alive and to be turned to the thing he loved. He just accepts things as they are and finds out that the thing he says are only insert the coin and thanks for buying. When he tries to find out if he can do more in his new body, he sees some writing and realizes that they are the products that he is selling: mineral water and corn soup. He hears a voice telling him that he is able to change the things that he is selling by spending points. Then he sees that he has 1,000 points and realizes money is converted to points, and by spending points, he figures out that he can add more products and keep different items at different temperatures, and being able to warm up frozen food and add hot water to ramen. While learning more about himself, he finds out that his body doesn't run on electricity for power, but he consumes his points to power himself. He uses 1 point for an hour and 24 points a day. He needs to earn 2,400 yen a day to survive. He has 990, so he would be able to survive for a month. He is thinking to not waste any points until his income is steady. He realizes he is in middle of nowhere, and after a day he gets panicked about no one showing up and the fact he is losing points. At that moment a frog shows up and starts approaching him. He gets startled by his voice and starts attacking him. After each swing, he loses 3 points on his durability, and he learns if durability reaches 0, he will break and become unusable. But he learns that the durability can be restored by spending points, so he thinks he can wait for the frog to get bored. The frog suddenly calls his friends, and after seeing that one of the frogs has an axe, he starts to panic. He tries to find a function to save him. He tries but didn't find anything. The frogs keep on beating him up. His durability starts to get even lower. He suddenly notices that he can get a blessing from God and can choose different abilities. He sees magic barrier and uses it immediately. The frogs gets pushed away, and after getting happy from the power he used, his points start decreasing as the frogs keep attacking him. They eventually get bored, and he starts on recovering his durability. He finds out that he is down on his last 311 points and hopes for people to show up and buy his items. Several days later he wished he had sold something, and then suddenly a girl show up. She looks alerted, but then she falls down and starts saying how hungry and tired she is, and starts saying that she was not cut out to be a hunter. Looks like she was hunting for frogs. And she starts wishing for food. Then she notices the vending machine. She is unfamiliar with what it can do. Then she hears his voice welcoming her and telling her to answer to coin. The girl wonders if he will accept the copper coin, but it gets unacceptable, and he learns he needs to acquire the coin conversion function to accept it. He quickly learned the skill for 100 point, and then immediately the prices change. She then realizes that it needs 1 silver coin to get something she thinks that is expensive, but she was willing to sacrifice for her belly. He is excited about his first sale, and then she picks to drink corn soup. She tastes the soup and says that there isn't anything better than this in the world. He is overwhelmed to bring her such joy. She wonders what other items he has and ends up buying more. He ended up making 6 silver coins, which is converted to 60 points. After filling up her belly, she ends up falling asleep beside him, and he protects her with his barrier and starts saying how vulnerable costumer she is to him. When the girl wakes up, she thanks him for the food. She gets startled when he speaks. She asks if he is able to speak, and then mentions someone who invents tools with magical power into them, and she wonders if he can say certain lines. She notices he can understand. She introduces herself, and after that they come up with the idea of saying yes to hello and no to thanks. After learning more from each other, she named him Bexo, and she asks him if he is lonely being all alone, and he says yes. She suggests him to come with her to meet her friend, and he accepts. She starts lifting him up. He is surprised by her power. He's happy that he got away from that place. Turns out Lamis has the blessing called Blessing of Might, and that explains her incredible strength. After walking for a while, she takes a quick break and says she is hungry and is thinking on buying the corn soup again. He thinks corn soup isn't that filling, and he starts to change his products. She buys a bag of chips, and after liking it so much she ends up buying a couple more. Because of her buy, he ends up recovering up to 320 points. He changes the mineral water price he wishes to give it for less, but his life depends on it. They made it back to the village, and the guards wonder what she has brought back. She explains to them that she brought a magical tool that can grant you items if you put money in it. She found it by the lake. Llamas asks the guards if it's okay to keep it, and the guards mention that whoever finds something lying around in Stratum gets right of ownership. She is glad about that. The guards ask if they can buy something from him, and the girl says it okay. The guards are surprised by his talking, and they think that he can be sold for a high price, but Llamas says she is taking him to see her friend. The guards try buying from him, and they are instantly impressed by his food, and they end up buying every item he has. They ask Llamas if she could bring him around once in a while. Boxo thinks his business is looking up and is happy. They get inside the village, and Lamies sees a little girl getting bullied. She beats one of the thugs and struggles to hit the others despite her powerful strength. They give up and escape. She checks on the little girl if she is okay. Lamies goes to the inn, and her friend Manemi rushes to her, glad she is alive and not harmed. Lamies was left behind by some other hunters, but Manami tells her that she helped to spread bad rumors about them. She then looks to Boxo and asks if she has brought another weird thing, but Lamies claims that Boxo is very useful and had helped her. Lamies sets him up outside. Manemi knows that she wants to show Boxo to her friend, but Manemi wonder how will she pay for the transfer circle, because that thing is needed to leave, but it looks like Lamies has spent all her money on his items. Munami tells Lamies to work on her inn, and she hopes that Boxo will help to attract costumers. The people start to get attracted to Boxo, his delicious food, and his items sold like crazy. Lamies takes him to the guards, but they eventually get bored from his items. He thinks it's time to change. He sees that he has sold 400 products and gained 3,000 points. He suddenly starts to glow, and the guards are happy to see that he has put new items. It costs 3 silver coins, but the guard is excited and buys it, and then he wonders how to open it. Luckily, there are instructions on the can they tried, and the guards loved it so much and started buying more. Several days later, words started to spread about his canned Odin, and caused a boom in the village. During the day, he makes canned Odin unavailable, so he doesn't compete with Inn's restaurant. The little girl that Lamies saved approaches him and gets startled by his voice, and so she throws a rock at him and runs away. When the evening comes, Lamies carries him at the gate to the guards. As they walk, she talks to him if he is having fun and wishes to meet her friend so she could help him. Lamies is glad to have found him, and he thinks that being reincarnated as a vending machine was not a bad thing after all. The next day, Boxo gets scared when he gets confronted by a bear, but turns out he is the director of the Hunter Association. He is impressed seeing Boxo talk, but he is actually there to get help from them to attack a frog fiend base. Lamies is saying that Boxo can't fight. Director knows that, and only wants from him to provide food and drinks for the hunters, and he promises to them that they will be well guarded. Lamas isn't too sure, but Boxo thinks about the threat that frogs can cause to the village and to Lamies, so he accepts to take the job. After 3 days, they take off, and we learn that it seems to be the breeding season of the frogs, and there will be more frogs also. According to the director, they are protecting the transfer circle in their village because it's the key to getting in and out of the dungeon. Beside the hunters from the village, there are other hunters from different villages who are excited to make money. Lana sets Boxo down and get approached by the captain of the hunters and tells her to not be tense because they will protect them. He is interested in Boxo, and Lamas explains how to use him. He picks lemon tea and is impressed by the way the bottles are designed. The man tries it and finds it delicious and asks how he is refilled. She tells him that he just refills himself. He looks interested in Boxo, and he asks his vice captain Felmina if she could come and take a look to Boxo because she knows a lot about magic. She looks at Boxo and says that she doesn't feel any magic from him and says that he is just a block of iron. Kelroy mentions how he is able to refill himself, thinking the items come from another dimension. Filmina suggests that there are blessings that do things besides produce magical power, and she thinks that a block of iron can't use blessings, but Boxo is actually able to use blessings. Kelroy thinks that's a mystery, and he thanks Boxo for helping them. The director says that they are camping for the night, and Boxo thinks that this is his chance to make some costumers. The hunters get in line to buy from him, and they are so happy about his delicious food. Because the nights and mornings have started to get cold, he added noodles. Boxo is surprised by the guard girl because she eats so much compared to her size. Lamas gets to know her, and they introduce themselves to each other. After it gets dark, the director starts approaching them and tells that they are 3 hours away from the frog fiend and wants Lamas to decide either to come with them to the battlefield or to stay here. Lamas Lama says that she doesn't have a problem going because she is a hunter, but she is worried about dragging Bakso. She asks Bakso, he says that he is okay to come, so they agree to join the battle as well. The next day they reach the frog base, but there is a thick mist and they are walking through mud. The director says to attack, and the hunters start on beating the frogs. Kelroy says to the hunters that they will be paid extra for the number they put down, and they get fired up. Lamies wants to do her best, but Bakso is worried about the fact that she can't land hits. And then all of a sudden a frog jumps at her, and she easily beats it. She is surprised she landed a hit, and it seems having Bakso on her back is giving her a better balance. Kelroy and other hunters keep on killing the monsters, and we see Felmina taking down 3 frogs at once. The frogs keeps on showing and they end up surrounded. Felmina tells Kelroy that there are too much frogs to handle, but Kelroy says that he is not going to give up. The frogs charge at them and Sui protects Llamas, but then suddenly a frog jumps after Sui and Llamas prepares to protect her, and then Bakso uses the barrier and protects her. The girls are confused about the barrier. Bakso is glad to have saved them, and he buys a new ability for 1000 points to widen his field of view. Llamas tells Bakso to watch her back, and Kelroy starts praising her about her destructive power and skills. Llamas blush while hearing this, and Bakso keeps saying to her about the enemies showing, but she is too distracted, so he ends up using his barrier again to blow them away. Kelroy is surprised by the barrier, and Llama says that the barrier is thanks to Bakso. Kelroy is even more interested now in Bakso, and he thinks he is dangerous. After they kill all the frogs, Kelroy tells the hunters to cut their tongues in order to give them to the association and get paid. Felmina asks him to help, saying they are gross, but Kelroy claims that he become the captain in order to not deal with that. His team calls him a tyrant. Bakso is surprised about how comfortable they are with each other. They wonder what should do next, and Kelroy suggests to help the front line. Femina lets him know that they are there to guard Lamies and Bakso. Kelroy mentions that they will be able to make money and even earn bonuses. Felmina tells them they will only if Lamies consents. Kelroy begs Llamas to go. She also wants to help the hunters in the front line, and she accepts. They take out a bunch of frogs, and Llama sees that there are a lot of injured people. Bakso also wants to help, and he provides some drinks for the injured for free. Lamies thank Bakso for his help. The director thanks Lamies and the Hunters organization, and he notes that there were twice as many frogs expected, and he thinks that the king frog has arisen. Bakso imagines how strong it could be. The director asks for Kelroy's help to beat it, and tells Lamies to stay there and provide food and treat the injured hunters. Later that night, Lamies gets called by the hunters for assistance, and then a shady man starts approaching Bakso. Bakso realizes he is there to steal his money, and he gives him a free drink, and when he tries to grab it, he burns the man's hand with a hot soup. He gets mad at him and tries to use a knife. At that moment, Lamies grabs his hand and asks what he was planning to do to Bakso, and then beats him up. The man gets restrained, and there is a disturbance in the distance, and then suddenly the king of frogs appear. The hunters are wondering what is he doing there, and they all start to panic. Llamas loads Bakso to the wagon, but the pigs are too afraid to move. Llamas feels bad about the pigs and lets them go. The hunters wonder what she is doing, and she ends up pulling the wagon with her strength. Bakso is thinking for a way to help them and slow the king frog, and he comes up with an idea of using cola. Llamas thinks he has a plan, and they all grab the colas. He buys the form change and changes his form to a Mento machine, and Lamies wonders what to do. He struggles to make them understand because he can't talk probably, and he only says to insert the coin. She doesn't understand him, and as the frog approaches, the hunter thinks he is broken, but Lamies can tell that Bakso is trying his best. As the frog starts getting closer, the thief wakes up and starts making a fuss. A hunter stuffs his mouth with Mentos, and as he chokes, they give him to drink Coke, which causes a reaction. Lamies understands Bakso's plan now and explains it to other hunters, and they uses Coke and Mentos to blast it to the frog eyes. The director came with the hunters in time, and they manages to take the king frog down. They all celebrate, and the director apologized to Lamies for putting her in danger and thanks Bakso. The director says the mission is complete as they head back to the village. As they head back, they notice that the village has been attacked. Lamies rushes to the inn, but it has been completely destroyed. She is worried about Manami, however, Bakso manages to calm her down. Lamies thinks that they have evacuated to the Hunters Association. They see a giant double-headed snake that was responsible for all the damage. When they arrive, they spot the 2 guards and ask if Manami and her mother are okay. The guards inform them that they are inside and safe, and we can see that the building is well guarded because it's where the transfer circle is located. Manami welcomes back Lamies, and they are happy that everyone is okay. Bakso is thinking to help people and is willing to give free items for the day. At night we learn that the snake is a natural enemy of the frogs. Bakso is surprised to see that the people eat the monsters they defeat, and there is a huge line gathering to Bakso since he's giving away free food, and even attracts some new faces, and thinks that it's going to make him more money over time. He even started to sell alcohol to people. Lammy's, a bit drunk, comes up to him and shares that she's glad everyone is safe. She mentions that seeing everyone gather around him brings her a lot of happiness, and she adds that he's turned into a crucial part of the village. The next day, people start repairing, and Bakso is assigned to the association where there are plenty of people eating. Lammy's tells Bakso that she got a personal request from the director. She says it's for rubble removal. She takes Bakso to the inn, and she starts easily lifting and smashing rocks, moving them to the dump. Suddenly, Kelroy shows up and offers to treat everyone. Lammy's gets excited, and he asks if she and Bakso would join their team. Lammy's immediately refuses, and Kelroy walks away rejected. Lammy's mentions that she is too busy to help with rebuilding the inn. The next day, Bakso gets approached by a woman and her assistant. Lammy's sees them and asks who they are. The woman introduces herself as a Kawi from the exchange house and explains that they came because they received word that the village is low on silver coins. Lammy's admits that this is thanks to Bakso, as he is only paid with silver coins. Bakso can't believe she ratted him out. She has a proposal for him and tells him to exchange the silver coins for gold coins. He's thinking that 1 gold coin is worth 100 silver coins, which seems like a lot of money to him. However, Bakso isn't equipped with the exchange function. Then Lammy's suggests using gold coins to buy something, and they will receive the silver coins as change. They end up with a whole chest of silver coins. However, the thief watches the exchange. Later, we see an old man in front of Bakso. We can see that Bakso has added the digital lottery function and is getting 30% more sales because of that. Suddenly, his wife shows up and drags him out of there. Lammy's rushes to Bakso and tells him that she sent a letter to Hulami, but she hasn't responded. She instructs him to wait there until she gets in touch with her. The director shows up and asks if they could come to the association to discuss something. When they arrive, he thanks them for doing well in the campaign. He turns to Bakso and asks for a favor, then tells Lammy's to leave the room for a moment. When Lammy's leaves, the director then says to Bakso that the population in the village will increase, and he is worried about the hygiene and diseases that might spread among people. Bakso understands why he told Lammy's to leave the room. The director then calls a girl named Shirley to come in. Bakso is impressed by her beauty. She asks Bakso for help with the problem of energizing the village and avoiding hygiene issues. One idea comes to his mind, and he suddenly changes his form. They examine the product, surprised by its shape and material, and they wonder how to use it. However, a paper in the box provides instructions, and she exclaims that it's a wonderful product that can help prevent diseases. She suggests purchasing a large number for the entertainment quarter. The next day, the little girl Shiori visits Bakso with a bunch of rocks but drops them when she gets startled by his voice. Some people then take her away. The following day, she is crying because her father didn't come home, and Bakso notices she's feeling down. He gives her a free drink, and she thanks him. That night, Bakso is at the bathhouse where he sells hygiene products like shampoo. He seems a big hit with the furry creatures. The next day, the old man appears with his granddaughter. He teaches her about the lottery function, and she excitedly tries it. Surprisingly, she wins and gets an item for free. She gives it to her grandfather, making him happy, and it seems that Bakso rigged it for her. The next day, the director approaches Bakso, mentioning that he's heard of Bakso's ability to blend into the surroundings. He asks Bakso to hide in an area where several crimes have occurred to help identify the culprit. Bakso ends up near the Hunter Association. Lammy's calls Bakso, wondering where he is. Her friend Manami reminds her that the director borrowed him. Lammy's decides to help out at the association. Bakso has a quiet day, and Sori looks for him. She runs into Lammy's and asks if she's considering her offer to sell Bakso. Lammy's firmly states that she's not selling Bakso. Sori insists that she'll have enough money for life, but Lammy's explains that Bakso is irreplaceable and won't be sold. Sori asks what Bakso truly is, and while Lammy's isn't entirely sure, she notes that he understands and responds like a human. Bakso is happy that Lammy's sees him that way. Sori tells Lammy's that she will take Bakso one way or another, and asks her to take care of him until then. Bakso reappears, surprising Lammy's. She tells him that she missed him and wants to share her day's experiences with him. The following day, Bakso is seen being wheeled around in a cart. The situation seems like he's being kidnapped, leaving him wondering about their destination. A few hours earlier, a group of men approaches Bakso. They explain that they're hired by the director to reinforce village walls and want Bakso to provide food for the workers. Among the men, Bakso recognizes the guy who previously attempted to steal from him. Despite this, he assumes the man has changed since he's now engaged in honest work. Bakso agrees and is placed in the cart. After about 8 hours, he realizes the true nature of the situation and ponders the distance they've traveled. They eventually take a break, allowing Bakso to discreetly photograph their faces. The thief confronts Bakso and demands free food and drinks. Bakso refuses, prompting the thief to attack him with a knife. Although Bakso sustains some damage, when the thief tries again, their boss intervenes, instructing them not to break Bakso. The boss then proposes that Bakso cooperate by giving them money. Bakso declines, knowing that he can repair himself. The thieves recognize this and are told to damage Bakso without breaking him. They attack him, but Bakso's damage is minimal. He wonders if he has a way to improve his durability. A notification appears, offering to boost his durability for 1,000 points. Bakso accepts and becomes significantly tougher, sustaining 0 damage. The boss notices that Bakso hasn't repaired himself and worries they may have broken him. However, the thief suggests that Bakso is only pretending. Suddenly, Bakso offers them drinks, causing all of them to spit it out. Bakso smiles, having given them his worst drink. When they arrive at their base during the night, the thieves put Bakso inside and ask a woman there to examine him. They become scared when she approaches them, and they quickly hand over Bakso's instructions to her before running away. She poses a question to Bakso, who wonders whether he should answer truthfully. The woman introduces herself as Hulami, and it dawns on Bakso that she's the person Lamies wanted him to meet. Hulami explains that she's a renowned magic item engineer and that the thieves kidnapped her to assess him. Bakso starts conversing with her, and she expresses surprise that a magic item can talk and understand languages. After reading the instructions, she figures out how he can communicate. Hulami informs Bakso that she had experimented with imbuing magic items with human-like intelligence, but she found it impossible with the current technology. Instead, she began considering the idea of infusing a human soul into an item. Bakso is impressed by her ingenuity. When Hulami steps away briefly to get water after their discussion, Bakso offers her a sweet drink. She finds it delicious, which brings joy to Bakso. They continue talking, and Bakso confirms that he has a soul inside and retains memories from when he was a human. Hulami wonders why he needs money, as magic items typically don't require it. He then transforms into a mento machine, and she realizes he requires money to change his functions. She asks if he can perform other tasks. He demonstrates his barrier skill, and she likens it to a wall. Bakso allows her to pass through, and she's amazed by his ability to use blessings. Bakso, in turn, is impressed by how quickly she grasps everything. As Hulami sleeps, Bakso ponders whether anyone has noticed his absence. At that moment, the thieves enter to teach Hulami a lesson for how she treats them. Bakso suddenly transforms into a magazine machine, which catches the thieves' attention and prompts them to leave, claiming they have work to do. Bakso is pleased with how that turned out. The next day, a man comes to deliver food to Hulami. She's disappointed to receive just a piece of bread, and Bakso changes his form to give her some of his own food. She tries various types of food and tells Bakso he's much better than restaurants. After getting completely stuffed, the boss of the thieves arrives. He asks if she has figured out anything about Bakso. Hulami doesn't want to cooperate, and the boss gives her a 2-day ultimatum to find a way to access the money inside Bakso. Bakso ponders how to escape within that time frame. Hulami continues examining Bakso and taking notes. Bakso becomes concerned about her appearance, given she hasn't had a bath for so long. He provides her with warm water and washing products. She understands his intent, thanks him, and takes care of herself. Bakso contemplates sacrificing himself to help Hulami escape, but she discusses something serious with him and advises against it. She explains that even if she escapes, surviving outside with all the monsters wouldn't be feasible. She encourages him to wait for an opportunity. Hulami grows tired and falls asleep. As time passes, Bakso is suddenly awakened by a loud noise and realizes they are under attack. He quickly wakes Hulami and hears Lamis's voice calling for him. We see a fight happening outside, with Lamies rushing in to find Bakso. Hulami is relieved that Bakso is friends with Lamies. Hulami suggests waiting there until they arrive to them, so they don't get in their way. However, Hulami realizes they might be in trouble since the bandits not only have their gold, but also explosives above them. Bakso becomes worried upon hearing this. Suddenly, some of the explosives detonate, causing the ceiling to collapse. Bakso activates his barrier to protect them. Hulami wonders if he can use the barrier indefinitely, and Bakso informs her that he can't. While Bakso believes his toughness will prevent him from breaking, he's concerned for Hulami's safety. Hulami realizes that Bakso needs money to sustain the barrier, and points to a bag full of golden coins. Bakso incorporates it into the barrier and adjusts his prices, allowing Hulami to buy buy whatever she desires with the money. He accumulates a substantial number of points, which he believes will help maintain the barrier until Lammy's finds them. Suddenly, Hulami collapses, and Boxo realizes she's suffocating. He transforms into an oxygen vending machine to help her breathe, leading Hulami to tell him that she'd fall for him if he were a human. Even Boxo is fascinated by her. Lammy's finally arrives, overjoyed to find Boxo. She slips through the barrier and embraces him, crying as she thought she had lost him. After they escape, Lammy's continues, hugging Boxo and apologizes for taking her eyes off him. Boxo is happy to be by her side again. Lammy's eventually notices Hulami's presence, and she is relieved that they got out of there safe. Philomena asks Calroy why he assisted them when money wasn't involved. He claims to be a nice guy, but Philomena senses he wants a favor from Boxo. Calroy mentions that they will achieve their dream one way or another. We see Lammy's as a child, demonstrating her strength while catching fish. She is with Hulami, and it becomes apparent that Lammy's frequently gets into trouble at home for breaking things due to her strength. Suddenly, in her dream, she stands before Boxo, thanking him for saving her life. However, it's evident that this is just a dream as she pleads for him not to leave again. Hulami informs Boxo that since his abduction, she has been constantly watching over him and hasn't gotten any sleep. She mentions their shared past, explaining that their village was destroyed by monsters. Both Lammy's and Hulami lost their parents, leaving them among the few survivors. Hulami reveals that while Lammy's possessed great strength, she was too frightened to utilize it and regrets that choice to this day. Boxo feels remorse for their difficult history and is determined to help in any way he can. Meanwhile, Lammy's dreams of being with him forever. The next day, Hulami informs Lammy's that she plans to stay in the village for a while. Lammy's asks her to keep her informed if anything arises and hurries off to attend to some work. Hulami and Boxo are approached by Sori's bodyguards, who ask them to accept Sori's request and step aside as Sori approaches. Sori introduces herself and requests a favor from Hulami. Hulami inquires about what she wants from them. Sori explains that there will be a gathering involving merchant families to showcase their magic items and engineers. She mentions that the person who organized the event is a rival who irritates her greatly. Hulami finds this situation interesting and agrees to participate, along with Boxo. They attend the event, and Boxo looks for the girl that Sori has a grudge against. Sori approaches the girl, and they begin to mock each other. Meanwhile, Kana observes the competition, paying attention to Hulami and Boxo, and she's confident in her victory. When the festival begins, the first participant claims their stick possesses magical properties that can transform it into various weapons. Hulami thinks it's a good concept, but the demonstration only involves attaching different bonds to the stick. This leaves everyone disappointed. After a considerable number of participants' presentations, Hulami becomes bored. Then, it's Lana's turn. Her engineer reveals a robot, claiming to have granted intelligence to a magic item. Hulami is shocked and suspects that he may have placed a human soul inside it, an act that's prohibited by the Engineers Association due to the destructive consequences of a past occurrence, which resulted in the destruction of a town. The robot initially impresses the audience, but suddenly it becomes enraged and starts attacking, displaying a desire to kill everyone present. The engineer attempts to deactivate it, but the robot throws him aside. The robot realizes it has been awakened from its slumber. Hulami instructs Sori's subordinates to try and restrain the robot, but their efforts prove futile as they are thrown aside. Hulami then jumps onto the back of the robot and manages to deactivate it. She apologizes to the robot for its soul. The crowd recognizes Hulami and starts discussing her past mistakes at the School of Magic Item Engineers, and Hulami claims that those accidents happened when she was young. Sori declares her victory over Lana. Time passes and winter arrives. Manami has organized a meeting with all the restaurant owners in town. They express concern about the impending arrival of a popular chain restaurant, fearing it might put them out of business. Manami presents Boxo as their secret weapon, promising him a deal where Lammy's can stay at the inn for half price if he helps. Boxo agrees since he's doing it for Lammy's. Later, the new restaurant opens. Lammy's and Hulami try the food and find it rather average, with Lammy's feeling that the flavors are weak. Boxo realizes that quality seasonings aren't cheap in this world, sparking an idea to him. At the next gathering arranged by Manami, she proposes developing a new menu to retain customers. They showcase their creations, and Lammy's and Hulami provide feedback on how to enhance the dishes. Boxo transforms, giving Manami and the owners a taste of how the food should ideally taste, inspiring them. The next day, the owners set up stalls outside, attracting people with their new offerings. The latest releases receive a positive reception, indicating success. The chain restaurant eventually goes out of business and closes. The owners celebrate their accomplishment. Calroy approaches Boxo and invites him to join a campaign with them. Boxo immediately declines, but Calroy reminds him of how he saved him before. Boxo ponders his decision. Calroy advises Boxo to talk with Lamis about it, and leaves. Lamis discusses the matter with Hulami, who suggests that many people would be happy for the chance to accompany them. She asks Lamis what she plans to do, and Lamis expresses her desire to fight and become stronger. Boxo is determined to assist Lamis in any way he can and transforms into a flower machine, bringing joy to Lamis. Boxo reflects on the story Hulami shared about Lamis' past, and he's determined that when spring arrives and hunters become active again, he will be there to safeguard Lamis. A girl approaches Boxo and hides behind him to evade the guards who are coming her way. One of the guards purchases some stew, and his friend teases him for choosing the same dish every time. The guard insists it's his favorite. It's evident that the girl is interested in the guard, but is too shy to approach him. Boxo decides to help and changes his form, offering her a collection of ingredients to make a stew in hopes of catching the man's attention. The girl expresses her gratitude and delight, and it becomes apparent that they end up together. Spring arrives, and we find Lamis and Boxo have agreed to Calroy's offer. They plan to check on the crocodile fiends, one of the 3 major monsters in the area. Lamis recalls their victories over the Frog King and the giant 2-headed snake, mentioning their goal to assess if the crocodile population has grown excessively. The following day, they prepare to depart, and it's revealed that Hulami is also joining them, as per the director's orders. They set out, but as they're on the move, they are suddenly attacked by frogs. Calroy's group swiftly handles the situation. As the group takes a break, they express their delight in having Boxo as their reliable source of sustenance, sparing them the need to hunt. Boxo impresses everyone by unveiling a new feature, an emergency box that contains parts for a portable toilet. The group is left awestruck by this revelation. Although Calroy playfully takes credit for bringing Boxo along, the group remains unswayed. As they continue their journey, Calroy underscores the importance of vigilance in their territory. He assigns AKA and Shiro the task of scouting, and the two set off as the group waits. When they return, the scouting duo reports encountering a group of 30 crocodile fiends. Hulami explains that mid-sized groups can range from 10 to 50 members, and they remark that these crocodiles were as tall as them. Calroy proposes that since the number is relatively small, they should consider avoiding the confrontation. However, Filmina reminds him that crocodile fiend materials fetch a high price. Calroy concedes, and they decide to engage in battle during the day, as the crocodiles are more ferocious at night. As the group settles down resting, Hulami requests Boxo to protect Lamis on the battlefield, expressing her wish to contribute somehow. Suddenly, Boxo transforms into an ice machine, sparking an idea in Hulami's mind. The following day, Boxo is seen dumping ice into the river, causing the crocodile fiends to emerge due to the cold. Calroy is pleased with the outcome, and he asks Felmina if she can employ fog magic to obstruct their view. Felmina admits that covering the entire area would be too challenging. The group contemplates their options, and Boxo transforms into another machine, producing dry ice that he then releases into the river. The resulting fog blankets the surroundings. Calroy expresses his satisfaction with bringing Boxo along, and Felmina playfully tells him that Boxo proves to be more useful than he is. Although Felmina's words momentarily bring Calroy's spirits down, the group still sets off to confront the crocodiles. Hulami remains with Boxo. She shares with him the purpose of her mission from the director, to investigate the elusive monster boss that shows up rarely, and she mentions that if anyone manages to defeat it, there's a treasure awaiting them. Suddenly, a loud bang startles them. The Calroy group hurries back into view, with Lamis unconscious, and the menacing crocodile boss chasing after them. Calroy urged Hulami to grasp his hand, but she staunchly refused to abandon Boxo. Employing his barrier, Boxo gently nudged her towards Calroy, who made a promise to Boxo that they would return for him. Assuming a larger form, Boxo aimed to seize the boss's attention. Despite boosting his durability and toughness, the boss forcefully whisked him away, resulting in a loss of 1,000 points. Swiftly shifting forms once again, Boxo employed a multitude of fried chicken lunches to divert the boss's focus, ensuring it wouldn't pursue the group. However, the boss promptly swallowed Boxo in one swallow. Boxo found himself ensnared within the creature's stomach, witnessing his points dwindling rapidly. Adapting, he transformed into a laundry dispenser and unleashed Tide Pods, inducing a stomachache for the boss. Recognizing this strategy wasn't enough to defeat the boss, Boxo morphed into a gas vending machine, filling the creature's stomach with gas. He then turns into the heating mode and creates a can into the microwave together with some paper, and then starts a fire and shoots it out of the barrier, and makes the crocodile boss to explode. We see that the only thing remaining there is Boxo. As a gold coin descended, he realized it was the treasure Hulami had referred to, and he takes it. Suddenly the ground splits, and Boxo falls to the ground. As Boxo continues to fall, he transforms into a balloon machine in an attempt to inflate the balloons for a softer landing. However, the process proves too slow, prompting him to spend 10,000 points to enhance the inflation speed. The barrier becomes brimming with balloons as he transforms into a cardboard machine to slow his fall. Observing a colossal labyrinth before him, he recalls Hulami's mention of a giant labyrinth under the Clearflow Lake stratum and captures images from security cameras. When he lands, he finds the coin he had earlier won lying in front of him, but his inability to pick it up frustrates him. Checking his newfound functions, he is surprised by his 1,000,000 points, the reward for defeating the monster. Exploring his options, he notices a vending machine rank-up function, utilizing it to raise his rank to 2. Spotting some fresh functions, he transforms into a coin-op vacuum cleaner. Deftly retrieving the coin, he wonders what the coin can do, but it ends up the coin is just a reward for beating the crocodile boss. Boxo gets disappointed. Suddenly, a notification system alerts him that his transformation time for the day is nearing the 2-hour limit, urging him to revert to his original form. Boxo expresses his surprise, admitting he was unaware of the existence of a time constraint. Time passes by, and Boxo talks about how not a single person has come since then. But he is not worried since he added a new solar panel function to save his points and is happy. Boxo notices some bearcats running away from monsters, and he sees that one of them is injured. Boxo, to protect them, uses his stealth function and uses the barrier to push out some milk bottles to their faces, and they end up running away. Boxo thinks that the bearcats were adorable. The bearcats stop and are surprised the monsters are not chasing them anymore. Boxo becomes visible, and one of the bearcats sees him and wonders if he was there before when they passed. Boxo is so happy to be surrounded by bearcats. He speaks, and they get scared and walk away from him. Boxo feels bad and changes his form and gives them some meatballs. Their leader mentions it could be a trap, but one of them can't resist and eats it and finds it delicious. Boxo figures out what they names when they called each other. The other bearcats are hungry too, and buys it with their silver coins. They ended up buying a lot of food, and Boxo learns that their expenses are high for some reason. They came to the stratum in hopes of getting rich quickly. McCann mentions they should leave, but Soko says they haven't found any treasure yet. The leader contradicts, stating they already found a treasure. Boxo thinks being called a treasure is okay, but he's nobody's property and already has lammies. They get startled when Boxo responds. They begin to wonder if he understands them, but he responds again with different words. They conclude he doesn't actually understand them, and Boxo hopes they will consider it further. The bearcats suggest that since they discovered Boxo, they should take him along. Attempting to lift Boxo, they find him too heavy. He considers transforming into a cardboard form, but worries that it might frighten them, so he adds wheels so they can move him. As they continue their journey, they discuss the possibility of selling Boxo for a substantial sum. However, Boxo asserts that he has no desire to be sold. During their walk, the bearcats recall that this is the area where they had encountered the enormous monsters before. It occurs to Boxo that he should inform them about his barrier, which might come in handy. Boxo traps 2 of the bearcats inside his barrier, and they get anxious for not being able to get out. The other 2 try to get in, but they can't. Boxo gets them out of his barrier and feels bad for making them wary of him. They think he is messing with them, and he gives them free food to calm them down. As they are eating, they suddenly hear the voice of the huge hog fiend, and they get out of there. Boxo wants to help them, and changes his form into a kerosene pump and dumps it, and makes the fiends to slip. The ground suddenly starts to shake, and we see a giant flame skeleton appearing. The bearcats wonder what he's doing there, and they run away with Boxo. The flame skeleton then eats the huge hog fiends, and then goes away. McCann states that they didn't expect the flame boss to show up, and Short mentions that he heard that you can get a treasure if you manage to defeat it. When the night comes, we see the bearcats sleeping, and Boxo feels good seeing them sleeping happily. Boxo then hears a sound and wakes everyone up. We see some flame scrolls approaching. They mentions that they should deal with them quick because they can summon the flame skeleton. Boxo gives them some bottles of water and they spill it to them, and the leader finishes them off. Boxo is impressed by how quick they are. The following day, as they near the exit, they hear the sounds of a scuffle up ahead. Short volunteers to investigate and returns with news that the director bear is present. They head over to meet him, discussing a hunter who defeated numerous rock fiends using kicks and punches, and who is persistently calling for someone named Boxo. Realizing who it is, Boxo becomes aware, and as they draw closer, they witness Lammy's finishing off a monster. She breaks into tears upon spotting Boxo and rushes over to embrace him. Hulami and the others express their concern and relief for Boxo's safety, which makes him overjoyed to learn how much they worried about him. Shiro and Aiko imply that the situation was quite precarious, leaving Boxo puzzled about their statement. Felmina reveals that Lammy's was angry with them for betraying Boxo and emphasizes how fortunate it was that they managed to locate locate him. The Bearcats approach the group, and the director expresses gratitude to them for safeguarding Boxo. The Bearcats inquire about Boxo's significance, and the director explains that he can comprehend and communicate with them. Skeptical, due to Boxo's seemingly random utterances, Lammies clarifies that Boxo's communication is restricted, prompting their amazement. When they come to realize that Boxo understood their conversation all along, they react with astonishment. They finally find their way out of the labyrinth. The director tells Boxo that their plan had two parts, saving him and taking down the skeleton boss. Calroy explains that each member of their group has their own goal, and they're willing to go all out to achieve it. He then shares the legend of the labyrinth, claiming that whoever reaches its deepest level and meets certain conditions can make any wish come true. Lammies is curious about the conditions, so she asks. Calroy responds by saying it's the coin dropped by defeating the boss of a level. Boxo is surprised by the coin's importance. Calroy chimes in, mentioning that their group has 6 wishes in total, but they only have 3 coins currently. They share their journey, moving from place to defeat monsters. Informed by Hulami about Boxo's human soul, Calroy proposes that returning to a human form could be possible. Lammies lights up at this idea, and they all agree to team up with the Calroy group. Boxo, however, is concerned about the prospect of being turned back into a human. The following day, as they prepare for their mission, the director presents them with a labyrinth map. But Boxo notices that it's not entirely accurate. He tries to show them the pictures he took while falling, impressing the director, who promises him a bonus upon their return. During their walk, they discuss strategies to defeat the skeleton boss. The director reveals a preset trap, and they consider luring the boss into it. Calroy points out that even if they do trap it, the boss's flaming body will melt every attack thrown to him. He proposes using Felmina and Boxo's water abilities to fill the trap. Calroy asks if Boxo can discharge a large volume of water, and Boxo realizes that using bottles of water would take too long. He then has an idea and transforms into a pressure washing machine, impressing everyone with his ingenuity. However, Boxo is concerned about the duration of his transformations. 2 days pass, and Boxo spends 1 hour each day as a power washer while the Bearcats help by throwing in bottled water at other times. But when Mikan goes to check how much water has collected, he finds the ground wet but no water collected. They get disappointed. Boxo devises a new plan and transforms into an ice machine, dumping ice instead of water to create a different approach. During the night, Lammies approaches Boxo and asks if he would like to be turned back into a human. Boxo isn't sure, as he grapples with conflicting thoughts. He's torn between the fear of becoming less useful as a human and the realization that as a vending machine, he's incredibly valuable to others. He worries that without his vending machine abilities, he might feel useless and lost. Lammies tells Boxo that she wants to talk with him and do all sorts of things with him, which gives him the courage to consider becoming a human. Several days pass, and a significant amount collects in the pit. Hulami worries if the ice will be enough to counter the boss's flames. Just then, the flame skeleton appears, terrifying everyone. As it approaches, Mikan triggers the trap, causing the boss to fall. Surprisingly, the boss's fire is extinguished, and they wonder why. It's revealed that Boxo put dry ice in the pit, which lacks oxygen, preventing the flames from burning. They start throwing rocks, but it's not enough. Calroy suggests using something heavier, even looking at Boxo, but Lammies and Hulami object. Calroy suggests fighting the boss down there, but Boxo warns against it due to the poisonous carbon dioxide from the dry ice. The skeleton boss starts climbing up, and Calroy contemplates fighting it. Boxo transforms into a magazine machine and gets slapped by Lammies, sending him flying. He changes into his heaviest form and smashes the skeleton boss, defeating it. Boxo collects its coin and uses his balloons and cardboard form to escape the pit. Everyone is impressed. Mikan closes the trap, and Boxo lands safely. Lammies scolds Boxo for his recklessness, but he's relieved that everyone is safe. Calroy asks about the Stratum Lord's coin, and Boxo is ready to hand it over, but Hulami takes it, asserting that it belongs to Boxo since he defeated the boss. Calroy offers 100 golden coins for it, and since Boxo already has one, he agrees to give it to him. The group heads back to the village. The group stops at a Hunter Association branch near the labyrinth, and Calroy's group departs using a transfer method. However, Lammies and Hulami remain behind, following orders from the director Bear to survey the perimeter of the labyrinth. While they are there, a hunter named Miguel arrives, instantly captivating all the girls. Even Lammies says that he must be some sort of hero. This causes Boxo to feel a tinge of jealousy. Miguel inquires about obtaining a detailed map of the labyrinth, and the girls inform him that it would take 3 days to provide an updated map. He decides to return at another time. However, as night falls, it becomes clear that Miguel isn't quite the hero they initially imagined him to be. We learn that he came to the labyrinth because he heard there weren't many people around. Miguel bumps into Boxo, and it seems he gets nervous when talking to people and doesn't understand why everyone stares at him, finding it somewhat intimidating. Boxo is surprised by Miguel's true personality and feels empathy for him. In an attempt to help, Boxo offers Miguel a drink to help calm him down. The next day, Lamis informs Boxo that Miguel will be accompanying them on their job. As they head out together, Lamis tries to get to know Miguel better, but he mostly plays it cool and agrees with her. However, when Hulami asks him a question, he becomes nervous and excuses himself, deciding to be the rear guard for safety's sake. Boxo can't help but feel sorry for Miguel. Miguel, on the other hand, wonders about how he can improve his communication skills and overcome his nervousness. After a week of traveling, Lamis starts feeling unwell. Hulami becomes concerned about her and suggests that she ride in the cart, but Lamis insists on continuing to walk. However, her condition worsens and she suddenly collapses. Luckily, Miguel manages to catch her before she falls. They decide to take a break, and it becomes evident that Lamis is experiencing her time of the month. Boxo, always eager to help, transforms into a hygiene vending machine. Hulami is curious about what items it contains, and when she realizes its purpose, she knows how to use it to assist Lamis. Boxo then transforms into a washing machine and uses it to clean all of Lamis's clothes. 2 weeks have passed since they began traveling together, and it seems Miguel has become more communicative with the group. He is finally able to eat with everyone. Maken detects a strange scent in the distance and alerts the group to stop. His friend Pell also senses it and can tell that there is a group of 5 men ahead. Hulami is surprised because there shouldn't be any hunters in a place like this. Miguel becomes nervous and expresses his concern that they might be after him. He wishes to go alone to avoid causing trouble for the others. Lamis stops him, insisting it's too dangerous to go alone. Hulami wonders why Miguel is being targeted, but Miguel can't provide an answer. Hulami reassures him, saying there's no need to worry since Boxo can protect them. Boxo manifests his barrier, and Hulami instructs him to test it. If Boxo can block an intense attack, Miguel will stay. He uses his intense attack against it, but it gets blocked. Boxo is surprised to see he consumed 500 points from his attack. They continued on foot, and Miguel could sense that there were 3 swordsmen and 2 magic users. Lamis was impressed that he could sense them from so far away. As the men approached, their leader told Miguel that they had come for his life. He asked if Lamis and Maken were his companions, and Miguel told him they were not, urging him not to harm them. The leader assured him they wouldn't harm them if he didn't resist. However, Miguel didn't trust him, so he decided to fight. Lamis and Maken run off, and we see 2 of his men chasing after them. They use their magic attacks, but Boxo easily blocks them with his barrier. Boxo then transforms into his washing mode, and Lamis sprays them with water. She follows up with an attack using soup, blocking their view, and they easily manage to defeat them. Meanwhile, Miguel easily takes down the leader. Afterward, he thanks Lamis and Maken for their help and instructs them to gather the others while he gathers information from the captured man. When they regroup, he isn't able to explain why he is being targeted. He tells them that it's too dangerous to continue traveling together, and it's time to part ways. Lamis suggests that he joins Calroy's group since they are seeking strong allies and don't care about their past. Miguel agrees and says he will get in touch with them. However, as he leaves, he realizes he can't handle being with more people. The group returns safely to the village. At the village, we see that Manami has held another meeting with the restaurant owners. She suggests holding an eating competition since the repairs in the village are almost complete, so she thinks holding a contest would be a good idea to attract more people. The other owners think that's a good idea, and they decide to hold it in 2 weeks' time. After 1 week, we see the restaurant owners asking Boxo for help. Hulami asks them what's going on. Manami explains that everything was going well with the competition until they heard that Sui and the Bearcats are entering, and they are known for their insane appetite. The restaurant owners worry that they may go broke. Lamis asks Boxo if he can help them, and he provides them with cola so that the bubbles can make the contestants eat less. Lamis worries if the contestants will complain since the water drinkers will have an advantage. The restaurant owners suggest advertising the drink at a high price until the day of the contest, and on the day of the contest, they will give it out for free so people will be more likely to want it. The restaurant owners express their gratitude to Boxo, and Manami hopes that he can help if they encounter any other problems. On the day of the competition, a large crowd has gathered. Manami announces that due to the high number of entries, there will be 2 preliminary rounds, with 5 contenders from each group advancing to the finals. The first group of contestants takes their places, including the Bearcats. Manami also reveals that there will be a time limit for finishing the food. After a moment, it becomes clear that all 4 Bearcats have finished, and the last spot in the finals is taken by a hunter. In the next group of contestants, we see Sui, and even Lamis has practiced. Manami starts the the round, and we witness Sui devouring her plate immediately, becoming the first to finish. Everyone is surprised, and Lammy's manages to finish in time as well. They move to the finals. We see that Boxo has added another function and plays music for the contestants. They get ready to start, and Manami tells them that whoever eats the most during the time wins the competition, and even gets a prize. They begin eating, and we notice Sui immediately finishing the first dish. The Bearcats try to keep up with her, but she finishes the plates so quickly that she ends up winning the competition. She is given the prize, but when she tries to open it, she finds that there is nothing in the box. Then Manami reveals that the real prize is actually to have free use of Boxo for a day. Boxo is surprised to hear this, and Manami begs for him to go along with it for just one day. The next day, Sui brags to Akia and Shiro about her prize. Calroy gets excited and tells Sui to go monster hunting since they have Boxo for a day. Sui says that she doesn't plan on lending him out and intends to go with Boxo to the origin stratum for the day. They arrive at the small house and are greeted by a bunch of kids, and Sui's master welcomes her back. Sui introduces Boxo and demonstrates what he can do, and they all try his food. Boxo is happy to see all the children delighted, and then he transforms into a balloon machine, giving each of them a balloon. Afterward, Lammy sprays them with water, which also brings joy to the kids. Boxo then does their laundry. Sui instructs the kids to go take a bath, but it seems that there is no hot water. Boxo transforms into a hot spring vending machine and quickly fills the bath. They enjoy a relaxing bath together, and Mia thanks Boxo for his help. At night, the kids continue to enjoy Boxo's food, and Lammy's expresses her happiness at seeing the children smile. Later, when they are sleeping, Sui approaches Boxo and thanks him for everything, promising to pay him back. Boxo tells her it's not necessary and offers her a free drink, which she gratefully accepts before retiring for the night. During the night, a group of men approaches, seeking Boxo because they've heard he can make unlimited food. Boxo considers waking up the others, but that would put the children in danger. Instead, he transforms into a dry ice machine, creating fog that frightens the men. He then uses the barrier to fire ice at them, forcing them to leave. In the morning, Boxo shows them what happened the previous night, and Sui recognizes that the intruders are former hunters. Mia gets ready and instructs Sui to take care of the children while she teaches the intruders a lesson. Lammy's expresses concern, but Sui reassures her, mentioning that Mia is an expert hunter, and even Calroy admits she is better than him. After an hour, Mia returns, smiling and telling them that the intruders won't bother Boxo again. Lammy's meets back up with Calroy, and she panics upon hearing that they are planning a campaign to the Dead Stratum, an area filled with skeleton fiends and ghosts. Lammy's becomes frightened, and Boxo is surprised to see her so scared of them. She's too terrified to go, and Calroy worries about who will carry Boxo since Lammy's can't join them. Felmina mentions that with Boxo unable to come, solving food issues for a long campaign would be impossible while they search for the boss. Lammy's interrupts, stating that she never said she wouldn't come and that she isn't afraid. They prepare to set off, but Lammy's notices that Felmina is not with them. Sui tells Lammy's that Felmina gets easily frightened, so she isn't coming along. They arrive at the Dead Stratum, and they notice that the buildings are all abandoned. Lammy's tries her best not to be scared. When they reach the inn, Lammy's gets frightened by a portrait of a woman. Suddenly, the woman appears behind her, and Lammy's instantly passes out. Calroy carries Lammy's, and Boxo gets placed at the front of the inn. Hulami tells Boxo more about Lammy's and how easily she gets scared. She can't believe that she is still staying despite her fear. At night, ghosts appear, and Boxo finds himself surrounded by various monsters, but they seem to wander aimlessly. Boxo puts up his barrier just in case and considers using several anti-undead items. He throws some rock salt at them, but it has no effect. He tries other items, but they also prove ineffective. In the morning, Hulami checks on him and is surprised to see so many items scattered on the floor. Sui and the twins go out to explore, and even Calroy leaves to find more backup. The inn owner approaches Boxo and tells him that the monsters wander around the village at night, but they only seem to envy the living, which is why Boxo has never been attacked, being just an object. Lammy's is feeling depressed because she is still scared of the area. Hulami comes to cheer her up, telling her that he will help her overcome her fear. Lammy's becomes excited, but when Hulami suggests she stroll through the village, she immediately refuses. Hulami then suggests she buy some restorative potion at the store. As she goes to retrieve Boxo, Hulami stops her, insisting she go alone. She reluctantly agrees, but as she attempts to go, a door suddenly opens, frightening her, and she rushes back to Boxo. Lammy's tells Hulami that her job is to carry Boxo, and believes there's no use if she doesn't have him with her. Hulami accepts this and encourages her to try it that way. Lammy's is doing her best, and Boxo sees that she is making a genuine effort to overcome her fear. He decides to encourage her by transforming into a music machine, which cheers Lammy's up. She proudly displays her newfound confidence to the others. Hulumi playfully mocks her, suggesting that she should try facing her fears without Boxo's assistance. However, Lammy's immediately refuses. Calroy returns, bringing along the Bearcats band and Miguel. Boxo is surprised that Miguel was able to contact them and briefly worries about his communication skills, but it becomes evident that he has improved significantly. Calroy reminds them that their goal is to find the King of Souls and defeat him, suggesting they search for him during the day. As they head out exploring, they are eventually surrounded by a group of skeletons. However, the group easily dispatches all of them. After several days, Boxo notices a skeleton peering at the window with envy. Then, a zombie boy approaches Boxo, seemingly wanting something. Boxo offers him a drink, and the boy starts biting the bottle because he can't open it. The next day, the same boy approaches Boxo again, so Boxo gives him another drink. It becomes a nightly routine, and Boxo begins to feel a connection with the boy. While they are camping outside during their exploration, Boxo wonders what the boy is doing while he's away, but the boy manages to find him. However, the twins are on duty, and they immediately eliminate him. Boxo feels bad about it, and Shiro finds a coin on the boy, wondering if he was trying to buy something. Back at the inn, Calroy mentions that they have an idea of where the King of Souls might be. Calroy mentions that the King of the Souls is a powerful magic user who can cast various elemental spells. Hulumi asks how they are going to deal with his magic, and Calroy explains that Boxo's barrier can help protect them against his attacks. Boxo agrees with the plan, and they all raise a toast before facing the boss. We see the group heading toward the King of Souls, and when they arrive there, Calroy asks Akia what's going on. Akia shows Calroy that up ahead is the King of the Souls, and that a bunch of different monsters like skeletons and zombies are under his control. Calroy is thinking of a way to reduce their numbers. Then suddenly, Boxo transforms into a kerosene pump. Hulumi grabs it and pushes the pump and gasoline comes out. Hulumi notices its unusual posture and suggests lighting it on fire. After seeing how effective it is, she instructs them to douse the enemy with it. They begin firing the gasoline bottles at the monsters, and Boxo removes the plastic so that the monsters get covered in gasoline and we see them catching on fire. The group moves through the flames with Boxo's barrier, continuously defeating the monsters as they advance. The King of Souls grows angry and unleashes his magic against the group, but Boxo successfully manages to handle it. The King of Souls is surprised by this. He uses another spell to raise stones at them, causing them to get separated from Lammy's. The King of the Souls asks Lammy's about Boxo, but she doesn't want to answer and rushes at him. He counters with another spell in order to blow them away, but Lammy's doesn't give up and manages to resist the wind thanks to her blessing of strength. Realizing that his spell isn't working, he starts splitting the ground underneath her, and Lammy's starts to fall. Boxo quickly changes his form, and Lammy's seizes the opportunity to escape. As he begins another spell, Sui uses her arrow to block his attack, and then Lammy's, utilizing her and Boxo's combined weight, delivers a finishing kick. The Soul King is defeated, and Sui and Calroy praise Boxo and Lammy's for their victory. But we see the Soul King cursing at them, and Calroy steps up, ready to finish him off. Suddenly, there is darkness in the sky, and a black orb drops onto them. Everyone panics, and Boxo's points drop significantly, but eventually it stops. Miguel and Calroy get up. As Calroy tries to grab his hat, black vines start appearing, taking the remains of the King of the Soul and creating a black orb in the sky. The orb dissolves, giving rise to another monster skeleton which seems to recognize that Boxo is from another dimension. Lammy's asks what his name is, and he tells them that he is called Netherlord. He examines the Soul King coin, but he doesn't show interest and drops it. Lammy's inquires about his purpose, and he explains that he is just hunting just like them, who keep on killing the Stratum Lords for only their coins. While they are talking, Miguel sneaks away to give him a surprise attack, but it has no effect, and he sends Miguel flying. Hulumi tells Lammy's to retreat as she throws a bottle of Boxo's gas. He mocks her about the attack, and Sui uses her fire arrow, causing an explosion. As they seize this opportunity to leave, the Netherlord blasts them, grabbing Hulumi, recognizing her as a threat, and in his other hand, he seizes Sui, and proceeds to give them a lightning shock. Lammy's tells him to stop, but it seems she's too late, and we see both of them out cold on the floor, thrown by him. Lammy's starts crying from the devastation, and she charges in, but the Netherlord avoids all of her attacks. Lammy's wonders what to do. Boxo has a plan but is worried it might not work. The Netherlord counterattacks with his magic, but Boxo manages to block it in time. Lammy's tells Boxo that she believes in him, and this gives Boxo the courage. He transforms into a balloon machine and fills the barrier with balloons. The Netherlord says that it's useless, and as he starts his attack, Boxo shoots Lammy's from the barrier and uses his balloons to distract him. With this chance, Lammy's manages to get a clean hit on the Netherlord's staff and breaks it. The Netherlord retreats, and we see him disappearing in the dust. Lammy's rushes to Hulami to check on her and sees that she is not awakening. She reminds her that they promised to stick together till the end. Calroy gets up and rushes to Sui, refusing to let her die. They perform CPR on them, and this gives Boxo an idea on how to save them. He transforms into an emergency defibrillator. Lammy's and Calroy are confused, and Boxo sees that there is no time to lose, and immediately uses the points to learn how to use the telekinesis skill, and moves it with his mind to them. Boxo uses all of his remaining points to increase the chances of success. He shocks Hulami to jumpstart her heart and worries that he was too late to save her. But then she suddenly wakes up. They use it on Sui, and she also gets saved. Calroy is relieved she manages to survive. They make it back to the village and report the situation to the director. The director mentions that he has read about the Netherlord in the old records and suspects he is a general serving the Demon Lord. Boxo gets worried to hear that there is someone even stronger than the Netherlord. Lammy's goes to the inn, and we see Minami rushing at her and asking if she is okay since she fought against a monster even stronger than the dungeon boss. The news spreads around the village, and all the people start praising Boxo for saving Sui and Hulami's lives. Later, we see Miguel approached by the Bearcats, and they ask him what he plans to do next. Miguel mentions that he was defeated by the Netherlord in the battle, and swears to them he will beat him the next time they meet. The Bearcats get happy hearing this. McCain tells him that the director would summon a bunch of expert hunters the next time they face the Netherlord. This makes Miguel nervous and worries about how he's going to deal with talking to all these new people. At night, we see Calroy reflecting on the battle and worrying about his people getting hurt just to grant his wish. The twins approach, saying it was their own decision from the start to follow him, and tell Calroy to move forward and not to worry. The next day, we see Lammy's and Boxo walking, and Boxo wonders where she is going. They arrive, and it seems she took him to the same place she found him. Lammy's reflects on all the things that have happened since she met him and thanks him for protecting her. He thinks about the last fight, and the fact that many people got hurt. Lammy's tells him it's not his fault that people got hurt, and mentions that thanks to him, Sui and Hulami survived. Boxo is touched and amazed at how much she cares about him. Hulami and Sui suddenly appear, and Lammy's asks what they are doing there. Suddenly, the two of them kiss Boxo, thanking him, and we see Lammy's freaking out. Hulami tells Lammy's to thank Boxo too since he saved her a lot. She starts approaching Boxo but is too embarrassed to do it. So Hulami and Sui give her a push, and she ends up kissing Boxo. Lammy's rushes off, chasing after Hulami, and Boxo is left thinking that being reincarnated as a vending machine was not a bad thing after all.